Right, we're good to go. Right, so if you're, I'm in student view here, so if you come in, this is what you should see. So first of all, hello, welcome. My name is Pearse, and it's my job to teach you half of this module. So as I'll explain it, when we get into it, I teach the first 3 nights, and a fella called Enda lead. Do you have Enda for anything else?
No.
Okay, so some of you may have had Enda in the past if you're 4th year in the F-Light thing. So he teaches the last 3 weeks. I teach the first 3 weeks, but I'll explain it when we do the intro as to what parts of what, right? So the main thing is, if you were enrolled, you got as far as here, make sure there's a full-time equivalent to this module as well, but it's not visible at the moment. You shouldn't be able to enroll into it. If by any chance you do manage to enroll into the wrong one, it won't say this is a part-time module, okay? So you'll hopefully know you're in the wrong one. So the way we'll do this is, obviously you're used to Brightside at this stage, I hope. I'll be filling up the stuff here as we go through it. Okay, so already we have a sample exam section. The URL is in here. If you click into it, it was wrong earlier, but at least it's fixed now. This is very important. So this is any videos I do, I will put here on this playlist, right? And if you go into it, it's actually a YouTube playlist. And already there's 5 videos on it for you, okay? And obviously after tonight, there will be the video of tonight one as well. And anything else I throw in to do with labs or to assist you, whatever, will appear on this playlist, okay? So the important point is they won't appear here on the Teams thing if you're looking for them. They'll appear maybe for a few minutes or a day, but then they won't anymore because I take them down and I republish them up onto YouTube because I find it easier for people to be able to get at it, whether they want to look at it their phone or whatever, okay? And they don't need to log into TU Dublin to get at it. So I'll explain what you have there in a little while. But as we move on, the videos will appear on this playlist. Now, Enda, I don't think uses that type of thing, so Enda will give you videos a slightly different way. So mine will all be here, and it says if it's Pearse stuff, okay? Let me see. Sample exam. This, you know, for me, I think is very important, and I would always encourage you to look at the sample exams. So these are not sample exams, they're previous exams. I should change that. They're the real exams from 24, 22 in January. You may wonder how come the exam is in January there. There's just 2 I picked. It's because, as I said, the full-time equivalent of this course runs from September to Christmas. So the exam is in January. You guys do it from January to May, and your exam is in May, okay? But it's basically set by myself and Enda. We have to set a January exam, a May exam, and a repeat. So, okay, and if you go and look, if you're brave enough to look at the TUD exam papers area and you can figure it out, all the rest of them are there. If you try it and you can't do it, let me know and I'll show you next week how to do it, okay? I find it's the most unintuitive site for trying to find an exam paper in the world. So I gave you 2 there, okay? Let me see, what else do we want to talk about? So how many have we got at this stage? We still only have 4. Where are they gone? There has to be more than 4 of you. Let me just check. Anybody else? No? Right, well, I don't know where they are. Okay.
The numbers were pretty low last night as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got your email, so you did everything correct.
Yeah. Well, I did and I didn't. I didn't have the thing set up to enroll properly, but we fixed that. Thanks to somebody, can't remember which one of you sent me the message. So we sorted that because that Brightside enrollment, I swear to God, should be taking a shot in the field. But anyway, so we've sorted that. So anyway, look, the video will be here for everybody who wants to look at it. But it's a pity that if there's more people to come and they're not here, that's their loss, as they say. Okay, so before we jump into it, who have we here and where? I wonder, did you? Oh, here's somebody who spoke too soon. Thanks very much for joining, whoever that was. Robert, was it? Not sure which one it was. So we're up to 6. We got 2. Very good. So welcome to new. I was just going through the site there, okay? There's some previous exam papers there. That's the team's URL for me, and that's my video. Any videos I do will appear on that playlist. And if you go look at the playlist, you've got 5 videos, which I will explain in a few minutes why you have so many videos already. But before we go through, I just wanted to see. So this course at this stage usually takes its students from a few intakes. Some of you have probably done F-Light, have you, for 3 years so far in Tala? Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, grand. So
not for everyone, though. No.
No, I know that, yeah. So that's my next question. Where? Who else is here, and where did you come from?
I came from what was DIT in Grange Gorman, I guess, and then took some time off from the Bachelor Information Systems Information Technology degree. Okay, and then do my 4th year here. Yeah.
Perfect. So you've done 3 years of information stuff somewhere else, yeah? Fine.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's grand. Cool. Anybody else?
Yeah, I did sort of a networking technologies course in Grange Gorman for the last couple of years. Did a PLC initially, mainly networking. Well, networking to be my main area.
Is that Luke or Robert? Which one?
Robert.
Robert, grand. Okay. So again, you've done something for quite a few years anyway, and you're joining us for the final year, yeah?
Yeah.
Grand. Okay. Anybody else? Ronan, thanks for joining. Anybody else come in a different route other than the Tala 3 years to this route?
Yeah, I came in.
I do this software. Oh,
it's okay.
Go on. You go ahead, Luke. You go ahead.
I was going to say I did a software engineering degree, and then I'm changing over to this because I feel like I'd prefer to be in a more support-based role. So
that's grand. Okay, but again, at least you've done 3 years of something cognizant or relevant to somewhere else. That's fine. And I think Aaron, you were going to say something, were you?
Yeah, I came from Blanche, TU Dublin. I did cybersecurity and digital forensics there.
Oh, very good. Actually, you could give this.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think so.
No problem. No problem. Okay, good. Right. So that's. Is there anybody else? Have I missed anybody?
No, I'm the only one from TU Dublin, from TU Tala. Because actually, I think I have your peers like 3-4 years ago, operating system or something like that.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So I remember,
hopefully you haven't. Hope you haven't been mentally scarred by them.
No, it was great. Actually, great puzzle. Yeah, you were great. Yeah. No, honestly,
all right.
Very
grand. No problem. Okay, so that's important, right? Because it means that hopefully you've all come across the basics of the technology that we might be using on it, maybe a bit of command line or a bit of Linux or whatever. I'm also interested. So I know that Zoran, you've done information security or cybersecurity in Tala on the way to here. Sounds like Aaron, you've done cyber security in some shape or form in Blanche. Have the rest of you done any information security, cryptography, cybersecurity in any of your courses?
No, not at all.
Okay.
There would have been some maybe not cryptography,
particularly
but yeah, definitely information security stuff. But maybe not cryptography. Be more like sort of like I don't know what you would consider cryptography, but maybe IT security, maybe more.
Okay, no, that's fine. Cryptography will be symmetric and asymmetric keys and how they're used for how the web works and things like that. So no, that's fine. Okay, cool, right. And then the other question I want to ask you is, has everybody in the room used the Linux command line in some shape or form?
Begrudgingly, yes.
Once or twice.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so there was no definite no's. Grand. Okay, right. So why do I ask these questions? Well, let's go and have a look at the intro material. So if you go into week 1, right, and so what you're going to see is there's intro. We're going to go through that PowerPoint now in a minute. And I've given you 5 IoT fundamentals decks, right? And I've given you quite a bit of what I call mandatory reading, all right? Now, what that means is that I'm never going to ask you in this stuff, you know, what's on paragraph 5 of page 4 and all that sort of crap. What it is I suggest strongly that you read those articles and papers or whatever, because they will give you a greater understanding of some of the stuff that I talk about in these decks and other decks, okay? So LP WAN, for instance, low power wide area networks, and it's very relevant to IoT stuff. So the way I deliver this is, there's nothing worse than coming to one of the, I think, and listening to the lecturer drone on for 2 to 3 hours about stuff that, you know, you could have either looked at yourself, or if the lecturer had videoed it and put the anecdotes and the little stories in the video, it's as good, yeah? Because let's face it, we're not all in the same room, and there's only so much interaction we can do online without it all deteriorating into chaos. So the way I do it is, a lot of the theory stuff I give to you as videos, things like these, right? And if you go look at these videos, and you really should look at the video, because in the video will be, like, for instance, one of the biggest fundamentals for IoT is low power, low cost, right? And so you'll see that when you look at those videos repeated again and again and again, with some stories, with some anecdotes, right? And so if you go look at the videos, you'll get that experience. You'll hear the things explained, not just me reading slides, right? But you'll see them explained. So what I tried, the question then becomes, well, Pearse, what are we going to spend 3 hours doing then, or 2.5 hours, or whatever long we're here for? What I like to do is concentrate on the more practical stuff to help you, especially in your CA. Okay, so your CA is a practical CA, and you end up having to deliver it just at the time you start with end, all right? So about halfway through the term, you end up having to deliver the CA. So what I like to concentrate on is, in the first 2 weeks, is preparing you for that CA, some of the technology you will need for that CA, and also some of the crypto stuff, right? And then the last night, what I will try to do is wrap it all up and make sure that you understood the core concepts, whether it's crypto or whether it's IoT, low power, whatever, in that last night, okay? That's usually the way I deliver it, because if I just sit here and talk crap for 3 hours, I'll bore the life out of you. You probably won't turn up in 2 weeks' time, and you'll just watch the videos anyway, okay? So that's the way I normally do it. So hopefully no one has a major issue with that. If I were to read through all the slides, you wouldn't get it done in the time anyway. We'd be here to midnight every time. Okay, so what you're going to see is, I will give you all the material. I will give you videos for all the material. Now, the videos I have for these 5, they're a couple of years old at this stage. Some of the material, when you go through it and you see it, you might see some differences in the decks, but don't worry about that. The main thrust of it, the main message will be the same. Some of the stats will be updated to be the, like, 2024, 2023 numbers rather than 2021 numbers, or whatever that the video is from. Okay, you get the idea, hopefully. Is there any questions on that? Are you okay with that, or do you all have an absolute embolism that, oh geez, no, I don't want to do it this way? Well, tough if you do, but, like, I'm just interested to know. Are you happy with that I concentrate on the more practical things for your CA, and then maybe wrapping it all up in the last session? Is that okay?
Sounds good for me.
Okay, right. So hopefully that's the plan, right? So let's go and have a peep at the intro one, right? So you can click into it, or you can just watch whatever you want. Right?
Is it 50-50 CA and exam at the end of the semester?
Just about to explain all
okay,
that.
cool. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So hopefully you should be able to see this, right? So summary, yeah. I do the first 3 weeks. A guy called, as I said, End of Lee does the latter 3 weeks. I'll cover IoT fundamentals and cryptography. So that's why I mentioned, have people done security or cryptography before? So don't worry if you haven't done security or crypto before, because even though we do it at a reasonably quick pace, we do the crypto. I don't do as much crypto as I would do as a full-time course, but we do it at a pace and in detail enough so you should know what it's all about, right? Now, don't worry, we're not doing the maths of cryptography or anything like that. What I'm trying to get across to you is the fundamental difference between symmetric and asymmetric cryptography, and how it's used in modern day security protocols. with things you do every day in your life, like for instance, opening up a web page, right? Or how your phone boots, how your phone boots. Sounds scary. Exactly, Aaron. It sounds way scarier than it is, and it depends on. I'll be honest with you. I think it depends on who's teaching it, and it depends on how they explain things, right? And I will explain it to you in terms I believe that will make it interesting for you. You will go away hopefully thinking, oh, so that's how that works. So anyway, we'll do it that way, right? And then we'll do the last three. I'm not going to read all those things. You can read them at your leisure. That's some of the stuff we will cover in the 3 weeks I have you, right? So for instance, we'll do some definitions, some base things. And these are the decks I've already given you. A lot of it is already in there, right? But I'll be talking about them all the time as we move through the 3 weeks, as the 3 nights, right? And this one here is particularly interesting, problems and challenges. In other words, if you have an IoT solution rather than just a straightforward, everyday mains powered browser to server connection, what are the differences, right? What are the challenges that IoT might have as distinct from those type solutions? Okay, and then crypto, I'd say that's what we'll do. Again, reads a bit scary, but it's not, right? Because if I were to tell you that, symmetric, asymmetric hashing, digital signatures, public key infrastructure, right? For instance, I'll give you an example. If I were to go to my browser and if I were to click and type, okay, so I'm just typing amazon.co.uk there, right? Now, if I hit return, come on, right, now, in the time, that was actually took quite a while, so we'll do it again, right? Return. Now, in the split second it took to display that page, right? Asymmetric, symmetric, hashing, digital signatures. What was the other one that was mentioned? Public key infrastructure were all used, right? Because everything you see on that page, as it came from an Amazon server, was actually encrypted. Okay, and every single one of these tabs I have open are a separate session with a server from my browser, and every single one of those is encrypted with a different, what's called symmetric key. Okay, and symmetric, by the way, just means it's the same key is used on both ends, right? You might remember your axis of symmetry from maths. I know you probably hated maths, right? But an axis of symmetry just means it's the same on both sides. So if you put a line down the middle of a square, that's an axis of symmetry. Both sides of the line, if you fold it all, will be the exact same. A symmetric key just means the same key is used. So for instance, on my browser, it has a symmetric key, and on Amazon server, the same symmetric key is on Amazon server. And the data is encrypted. This data here that's on my screen was encrypted by Amazon on their server, came down and appears on my browser because my browser used that same key to decrypt it. That's pretty easy to understand. However, what you need to understand as well is a symmetric key. If, as a matter of interest, could anybody tell me how you generate a symmetric key in a modern system like a browser? Anybody, any idea?
I should really know the answer to this because I've studied this, but I've forgotten.
That's okay.
It's usually, I seem to remember doing it on, I think we were using Kali Linux to do it at the command line to create a key, if I'm right.
Yeah, but how do you create a key is my question. What is a key on one of these systems? How do you create, if I needed a key, right, which is just a number, okay, it's just a long number, how would I generate it?
Is that with the seed or something?
Yeah, it's a random number. Okay,
random number.
It's just a random number. Okay, so basically, my browser would generate a random number. So here's where it gets a little bit interesting. I just said that the Amazon server has the same key as my browser. So the interesting part becomes, how does that random number that my browser generated, how does it get to the Amazon server securely? So that's an interesting problem to solve. So what it actually does is uses the concept of asymmetric cryptography to get that key to the other end. Okay. So as I said, I'm not going to do it tonight. We'll do it the next night, right? But what I'm trying to explain to you is we will use everyday examples like this to try explain how cryptography is used in everyday to move data around. Another example, I'll give you one more example just to keep it interesting, and then we'll move on. You all have mobile phones. You have either, most likely, you have an Android phone or an Apple phone, right? Those phones, as they boot up from the bootloader to the operating system, to all the applications, right? The applications that the Android one gets from Play Store or the Apple one gets from App Store, right? Every layer of software, as it boots up, it checks the next layer to see if it is okay to boot, to run. So for instance, the bootloader comes up and it says, right, there's the operating system. Before I run the operating system, is it okay? And if it's okay, it runs it. Then the operating system is like, right, this guy has 15 apps he wants to run, and we have some system apps. Okay, I need to check all those before I run them, if I will run them. And you know, some of you may know, if you jailbreak a phone, you can load apps onto it that didn't come from the Play Store and the App Store. So when I say the software checks if something's okay to run, what do I actually mean? Well, what I actually mean is using cryptography to check that the digital signature of that piece of software passes before I run it. Right? So as I say, every day you use your phone, you run apps. Cryptography is used to run every single application. It's used, if you reboot your phone, it's used to check the bootloader on the operating system before it runs an application. And every day, every browser session you use uses cryptography to send data back and forward to the servers, right? So you don't realize it, but cryptography isn't really that bad a dirty word. It's used everywhere, okay? And the beauty of it is, yes, some of the algorithms may change every few years, but not that often, by the way. But it's not actually that. The algorithms are all based on the same concepts of symmetric and asymmetric. Anyway, we'll discuss that in 2 weeks' time. And hopefully some of you will enjoy it. Some of you will probably go, I hate this subject. But hopefully most of you will be able to relate to it, all right? So where were we? We were back here. So we'll do all this. We'll mention blockchain just to make sure everybody understands it. And security protocols is, again, a fundamental thing. For instance, we said, talking to Amazon, how do you get the key to the other end? Well, that's using a thing called a security protocol. And the protocol we actually use is a thing called, has anybody ever heard of TLS? T for Tommy, L for Liverpool, S for symmetry. Anybody heard of TLS?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
TLS, SSL, all that stuff.
Yeah. So they're just protocols that are used to move keys around the place, okay, or to set up an encrypted or a secure session. TLS is used. It's the one used for every single session that's on a browser, okay? Let me see. Right, that's grand. And then this is Enda stuff. Enda will cover all this stuff. So what I will do is I will give you the fundamentals of the crypto stuff again. If you've done it before, you'll find it quite easy. If you've never done it before, as I said, we take it at a pace that's understandable. It might be challenging, but at least hopefully you'll get a lot out of it because you'll learn a lot. Okay. And then Enda, what he does is he will take all those fundamentals and he will build on them for the importance of cloud security. Okay. So he does all this stuff, right? I'm not even going to read it. Yeah. So if someone asked the question, yeah, is there an exam or is it all CA or what is it? It's 50-50. All right. So it's 50% for the exam, 50% for the CA. And of the CAs, you have 2 CAs. So we don't need to be a genius to figure out that each CA is worth 25%. Okay. So 25% for CA1, 25% for CA2, 50% for the exam. All right. The CA1 I give you is an elapsed CA, whereby I ask you to build a little IoT system. All right. Now, before you all get too upset and excited, oh God, he's going to have us doing bash scripts, right? They're basic scripts. You can decide how complicated you want to make them. Yes, you have to be able to get it to do something. I give you some samples, right? I give you the basics, and there's very few people, I don't think I've ever come across a person who made a fair attempt at it that didn't get through it, right? Obviously, if you don't turn up and you don't bother, then you might be able to do it. But most people can do it no problem. And some people like it because they get to show off a little bit, or they investigate it or research a little bit more. and they bring a little bit extra to the party, okay? But we will, when we finish this intro crap, we will start looking at some IoT protocols using the command line, and again, hopefully you'll find it interesting, right? And so that's the one I will give you. I will give it out in 2 weeks' time, and you then will have whatever 4 or 5 weeks to do it. Okay, that's the way it works. And then Enda will do his one when he gets his hands on you. All right. Now, there's like 2 pieces of just advice for you. And you're all 4th year or post grad, or you've come from somewhere else and done 3 years somewhere else. And it's year 4, right? So I won't, and we're not in the same room. We're not in the same labs together. So I will not have the time to be able to cuddle you through it. You're going to have to be able to figure things out yourself. Yes, you can send me an email. I'm usually pretty responsive because I spent too many years in the private sector. So therefore I look at email too often. And so usually I'm pretty good at responding. If you have an issue and you want me to explain something or whatever, or maybe point you at something else to help you, I don't mind, as long as you don't like live in my ear all the time. But I need you to realize that this is on you at this stage. It's year 4, so it's honors diploma, it's honors level stuff at this stage. Okay, so you're expected to read and figure things out. And then the most important one is this. Yeah, now obviously not everybody will be able to attend every 2 weeks, because you know this is part-time. You all have, most of you have, you know, good jobs or whatever you're doing. You might have to travel for work, you might be away, you might have kids, they could be sick, anything could happen, right? So I don't expect everybody to be able to attend, nor do I insist that everybody attends every 2 weeks. I'd love you to attend. I think you'll learn more if you do actually attend rather than just watch the video of the session. But the main thing is, if you can't attend, that you make sure you catch up as soon as possible before the next session, okay? That's the main thing that's the main trick for part-time. In other words, if you miss a session, catch it up as quick as possible via the video, or you're supposed to do some work for a lab, do it, right? Because if you leave it and it all starts to ramp up and gather up together, you won't have enough time to rescue it, because the thing, as you all know, the great thing about semesters is they're only 12 weeks long, and you don't have to remember anything after the 12 weeks. The bad things about semester is they're only 12 weeks long. And if you fall behind, it's very hard to catch up. Okay. So as I said, please, if you can attend, attend. If you can't attend, make sure you don't fall behind. There's my 2 pieces of advice. Okay. Any questions before we move on?
Pearse, sorry, I had one quick one. I probably missed it right at the start, or but how does the split work with you and Enda? Was it the one lecture, you, and then he's next, and then alternating like that?
Yeah, it's I do the first 3 nights, he does the second 3.
Okay, grand.
So that's it there. See it? First 3 weeks, I do the first 3. So you basically have me now in 2 weeks' time, and in 4 weeks' time, and then he kicks off in 6 weeks' time. Okay?
Brilliant. Thanks.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? How many we got at this stage? We're up to 7. All right. It's better than 4. Right. Okay. If there's no other questions, we shall move on. So let's go back to our. Okay. So hopefully everybody is enrolled who's supposed to be here. So what do we got here? Week 1, right? So as I said, I'm not going to go through. These are the theory lectures, right? 1 to 5 for the first in 2 weeks' time, right? So what I'm asking you to do to make sure you do is look through this stuff. Personally, I'd have a quick scan through the PowerPoints, and then I'd watch the videos. All right, the videos are probably only about, I can't remember how long they are. Actually, it probably says it here. They're all about 40-45 minutes long. All right. So my advice would be go look at them, and you'll understand it probably better than just reading through the PowerPoint. Some people just read through the PowerPoint. That's fine. It's up to you. Okay. They're there. But the main thing is you need to do it in the next 2 weeks, right? Because what will happen otherwise is in 2 weeks' time and in 4 weeks' time, I will take for granted that you have looked at this stuff, and I'll be talking about certain protocols and mentioning low power and mentioning the importance of the cost of stuff for IoT sensors, and I'll be talking about things like protocols and LP WAN and things like that, right? So if you haven't looked at those, you won't know what I'm talking about, right? And similarly, what I would do is I would start to have a peep at some of these. You'll probably find some of them are interesting, right? But obviously make damn sure you read them before you go when it gets to the exam. All right. One of the things I will do on the last night as well is I will go through one of those exams just to make sure you're understanding what way they work. Actually, what I will do is I will do that briefly now because there's something I need you to understand from the start, right? So this is typically what it looks like. I don't know whether this preview thing is going to work right. I'll download it, otherwise it looks shit. Hang on there 1 second. Okay. So this is last year's January exam, right? When it loads up. Come on, you can do it. Right, okay. So most important thing is, where's it gone? Come here. There's 5 questions, right? You have to do 4. So I'm not going to go through these at the moment. I'm just going to warn you about one particular thing. Every single question has half of it is from Enda, half of it is from me. So in this case, for instance, this is my half, right? And it talks about UDP versus TCP, and which is more important for IoT stuff and things like that, right? So the thing you need to be aware of is if you decided to be, a clever clog and say, oh, I don't like Enda stuff or I don't like Pearse stuff, I'm just going to do one of their stuff. Sure, I'll be able to do, whatever, 3 of the question you want. You'll literally only be able to do half of each question, right? Because that's the way it's done. Every single question has a section from him and section from me, and it'll either be 12 marks from him or 13 marks from him, or vice versa with me. Okay, so that's the thing you got to watch out for. So please do yourself a favor and don't start leaving out whole chunks of the material, otherwise you could get yourself in trouble. All right. So, but having said that, I really would advise you very early on, have a look at as you're going through it, keep looking at the papers, right? And so, for instance, if you go and do the, so say for instance you were, eager bunny, and you went through and did the 5 yolks tomorrow or the next day, go have a look at the paper and see, okay, now I know some of that stuff. Would I be able to answer any of these questions, right? And you'll find you probably would be able to do some already. Okay, so it isn't that bad. For instance, there's another one from me, right? That's talking all about TLS, yeah. And once we go through how a browser actually talks to a website and it uses that TLS protocol to do it, you will understand it and hopefully be able to answer that question, right? Now, obviously, there's loads of material in the slides and everything I give you, which give you all the details. But at least if you just listen when I'm explaining it, you should be able to get a lot of it, right? Let me see what else there. That's an interesting one. That's me again. Data protocols for IoT topologies typically fall into 2 categories: client server or publisher subscriber. Has anybody ever heard of a publisher subscriber protocol?
Yeah, MTTQ brokers and publishers and stuff like that.
Where'd you do that?
I did a project on it. My level 7 project was I used we made a card reader scanner that would use MQTT brokers to send data to a SQL database through there.
Where'd you do that?
In TUD Grange Gorman in network technologies.
Interesting. Very good.
Yeah, there was a good bit of IoT. Actually, I think the lecturer's name was Ben. I think he was from Blanche. Actually, I thought he was from Talib, but actually it was he was lecturer. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, you'll enjoy the CA1 then. Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting, right? Yeah, because MQTT is a publisher subscriber protocol. And a lot of people have never heard of such a protocol, but they're extremely powerful. But anyway, we'll play with them tonight and it's form a part of your CA1. Okay. All right. So that's what a sample paper looks like. So my advice would be to look at it as we're going along, because again, you might look at some of the material and go, oh God, this looks very difficult, so I can't understand this. But when you actually maybe looked at the questions that were asked, you might find out, it's not that bad. Or vice versa. You might think something is very easy, and then when you look at the question, you go, whoa, I don't understand what that question is about. So it pays to look at the papers as you move along. That's my suggestion, all right? Okay, so let me see. Let's keep going. So that covers sort of that stuff, right? So this is what we're going to play with this evening, okay? We're going to do MQTT basics. We're going to do a lab part 1 and a part 2. And it's a feed in to what you will need for your CA1. So between this week and next week, right, I will give you enough building blocks. And obviously I will release the CA1 next in 2 weeks' time. But I'll give you enough building blocks to be able to hopefully build up the basics, and then it all depends on how far you can take it, all right? Now, the environment I use to do my Linux stuff is Google Cloud Console. As I always ask this question the wrong way. Is there anybody who hasn't used Google Cloud Console?
We actually used last term.
Okay, good,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that? Google what now?
Google Cloud Console. It's just Linux.
Oh,
console.
yeah. No, I did use that. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, fine. Great. Excellent. Right. So I include this stuff here. I don't go through this stuff here, right? This area here is for people who basically feel their Linux is very ropey, very raw, and they need to come up to speed reasonably quickly on the basics of the command line, right? That one, if you go into it, is literally just, I'll show you. It's just a really stupid little tutorial thing, right? And the whole point of this is, if you're a little bit unsure of your Linux things, go in, try quiz 1, right? Get rid of that. And try to see, do you know the answers? Check the answers. If you get all the answers right, maybe go down and do quiz 2. Okay. And again, if you get all the answers right there, just move on. You don't need to do it. If you don't get the answers right, maybe go back and just look at the little instructions in between and make sure you just come up to speed to get your basics right, okay? The other one that there is just the basics of how to fire up Google Console basics, right? We'll fire that up in a minute anyway. These two, that's if you want to learn a little bit more about scripting. This is basically if you want to, again, revise your information on command line. What are these? They're probably two of the better tutorials online that I've seen over the years, right? And so there's the basic command line, basic navigation. Again, like if you were going to do this, if you went down as far as even there, you'd get back up to speed fairly quickly, right? So if you're a little bit ropey on your command line, I would suggest you definitely do this one, right? And then if you want to learn a little bit more on scripting, or if you're trying to do something snazzy with the scripting, like there's obviously loads of stuff on the web, but that, again, I found these ones reasonably good, okay? I'm not going to cover them. I'm just giving you them as extra material, all right? So what am I going to cover? So we're going to go through MQTT. Is there anybody else in the room who has met MQTT before? Who was the genius that said they had used it before?
Well, I don't know about genius, but it's Rob.
Rob, okay. I'll watch out for you then. All right, Robert.
Yeah,
so Robert,
I just said in the group chat that I thought I'd have an advantage, but good thing I've forgotten the majority of everything in the project. I'm just looking up the basic architecture again just to refresh.
what were you saying about semaphores?
Oh no, that was something I did in my first year. We did like bash scripting, and it was all we had one where we had to write like interlocking semaphores to like make we needed to have a script that ran that gave our student number, and it all went with, I don't know, it was
I must find out who this guy is, because I think he's robbing my notes. But anyway, that's okay. That's fine, right? So we're going to go through the basics of MQTT, and we're going to do, one or two little things with MQTT, just to highlight how the protocol works. So my advice is, as we go along, you try it as well, right? The whole point of this is we'll do it sort of together. I will obviously do it, but I'll pause every now and then and see, can you do it? And if you have queries or whatever, you can ask, okay? Within reason. So what I'm going to do is, it's now 7:15. I'm going to run this until about 10 to 8, right? Then we're going to take a 10-15 minute break, get a cup of tea or cup of coffee or whatever, anything stronger if you need it. And then we'll reconvene, and we'll probably run to about 9ish, okay? And we'll see how we go. And we'll see if we get this done quicker, then we might spend less. If it takes a little bit longer, it might take a little bit longer. We'll see how we go, okay? But I would encourage you to try it as we go along. The instructions, I think, are reasonably clear, but you never know. Some people mightn't find it so clear. All right. So MQTT basics. Let's kick it off. So I'm going to get rid of this one. Okay. We can get rid of that one. We don't need that anymore. Right. So this is MQTT basics, right? So just, you can look for a few minutes, and then we'll try and install it and see, can we get it to work. Before we get into it, jump into your try fire up your, this is Google Cloud Console, right? So I'll close it. So if you, of course, mine is already exists. So if you let me see. Let's kill it. Okay.
Sorry, Pearse. The Google Cloud Console, we did use it, but I never really got a good grasp on it. Is that just, it's just a virtual, like Linux?
I'm gonna show you now. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, if we go Google Cloud Console, right? You type it in. Let me see.
Pearse, is there?
Yeah.
If you use our, like, I have Linux virtual machine.
That's fine. You can use that as well.
Is that okay? Because it's not. Last
No.
time we don't need to do. Because last time we did. I was doing the same thing, and then went to do CA, and we were doing CA in a terminal in that Google Cloud. So we will do just. We're not gonna do that.
Yeah, I don't mind. You can use, if you're happy with a Linux VM, right? Then use that all the time. Or if you have a native Linux machine, right, and you use that, there are some people who have that as well. I've one of them myself. And then by all means use that. Okay, if that's what you're used to, use that. There's absolutely no problem. I don't mind what you do in. But I suppose what I'm saying to you is, for instance, if is anybody using Fedora Linux, right? So if you use Fedora Linux, some of the commands for installing software are different than for Ubuntu Linux, right? And Google Cloud Console is Ubuntu Linux. So all I'm trying to say to you is, if you're happy in your Linux environment that you use that by all means, but don't expect me to support you if it all goes a bit bonkers. That's all I'm trying to say to you, right? But I don't mind if you use a VM or whether you use Google Cloud Console, whatever. The beauty of Google Cloud Console is that obviously you can log into it from any machine, and your stuff will be there, and you'll be able to work on it from any machine, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your work PC, God forbid, whether it's a lab PC in the college or whatever, if you're ever in there these days, you can get into the same place. That's the main advantage of it, okay? So anyway, if you go in here, you click into it, right? The main point is, right, when you go in and you see something like this, whatever you do, don't go in and start hitting free. If you've never used it before, don't go in and pick the free option or anything. What you want is, you see up in the top right hand corner, it says console, right? You just pick that. And it'll jump straight into this. And then top right hand corner, see that little box with the triangle in it? That's what you want, okay? So obviously you'll have to log into your Gmail. You have to have a Gmail account. You log into it first. You'll get as far as the previous screen I had. Then you'll get to this screen, hit that little box, and you're in. Don't sign up for any free bullshit or anything like that. You don't need to sign up for anything. All right? So drag it up there. Okay, so you saw what I did. I just dragged the screen up. A lot of people go in and it's down here, and they work down here for the rest of their lives. And I swear to God, you do your head in. I don't know why anybody does that. So just drag it up. Okay, and you have whatever 5 gig of space that they give you for free, and it's a very, very reliable Ubuntu environment. Okay, that's what I find. Like, I've been working on this. There's all the stuff I have, right? There's a lot of stuff in here since since 2019. All right, I've been using this, so there is a lot of stuff you can use. Right, you have a command line. I'll just run through the basics just in case anybody hasn't seen. You've got a command line environment. You can have, see the plus here. You can have essentially 4 console windows into the environment they give you, which they call it a VM. It's actually a container, all right, but we won't worry about that, right? So they give you an environment to pretend it's a VM. It's a Ubuntu environment, and they give you the ability to have 4 separate windows into it, okay? And that's basically it. There's a lot of stuff they give you. If you do a PSF-EF, they give you Python. They give you you can SSH into this. There's loads of stuff you can do with it, and you can install more stuff on top of it. All right, which we will do. They give you Docker, right? It's a really nice environment. You can do loads of stuff, right? Yeah, that's it there, Trace. Okay, so hopefully everybody can get in that far, right? So let me see, what else might you want to do while you're in here? The other things I would do all the time would be, you see these 3 little buttons here, 3 little dots over here. If you click those, you get this menu here. If it all goes to pot, hit restart, and it'll restart the environment. The only ones I ever use are upload and download. So upload, if you want to upload a file from your PC that you're running up into the cloud environment, right? This Google Cloud environment, you hit upload, pick a file, and when you upload it, it'll land into your, by default, it'll land into your home directory. Okay, you can actually specify which directory to put it in, but by default, that's where it will go. So that's upload will transfer from your computer up to the cloud, to your Google Cloud Console environment, right? This area here. Download obviously does the opposite. So if I click that, I'll be able to download a file from my Google Cloud 5 gig that they give me down to my PC. All right, there you go. So I'll be honest with you, those 3 dots and the environment are the only things I think I ever use of this interface, right? And personally, if I want to use an editor, I use Vi, okay? And Vi, I don't know what you want to use. Some people use Vi, some people use Nano. They're both there, okay? And some people use, I'll just get out of Nano. Some people use this pile of crap, which is the editor they give you. Personally, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, but again, some people do. Everybody has their own preference for editors, okay? Right, any questions on that before I leave it? I'm now going to go look at the MQT stuff, and I'm going to flick back and forward to this environment once we start going through the material, okay? Any questions on that before I leave it? So what I'm asking you is, can you fire up either this or whatever Linux environment you want to use as we move through this, because you'll get more out of this if you try it as we go along. All right, now the beauty of all this is all videoed, so even if you can't keep up or something goes wrong, don't worry, just go to the section in the video and work your way through it and make sure you can do it. Right, okay, let's have a peep. Let's go back to where we were. Right, so MQTT, what in God's name is, no worries, Aaron. What is MQTT and what is Mosquito, right? So Mosquito is the software we're going to use to support MQTT in this environment here, right? We will install it in a few minutes. Okay, so what's MQTT? It's a protocol, right? So what's that mean even, right? Well, it's not only is it a protocol, it's a publisher subscriber protocol. So the easiest way to explain it without reading all the crap, right, is to skip forward a few slides to this slide here, right? So imagine, for instance, this is a temperature sensor in my house, yeah? And this is me at work up in the top right on my laptop. And this is my missus out doing whatever she's doing with her phone, okay? And we're both interested in the temperature of our house, or maybe a certain room in our house, because the poor dog is at home and we don't want the guy to roast, yeah? So what you can do is you can use MQTT. Imagine there's a sensor in the room where the dog is, and every time the temperature changes by a degree, it publishes what the temperature is. It publishes it so that that value will eventually find itself to both my laptop and work and the missus's phone, right? Now, forget publish subscriber for a minute. If you wanted to send data from a sensor in the house to both the laptop and the mobile phone, normally what would you need of the laptop and the mobile device in order to send a message to the laptop and the mobile device? What would you need?
Server.
No, not necessarily, right? What when you have one computer that wants to talk to another computer, either to get data from it or to send data to, what do you need?
You need their IP.
You need to know how to get there.
No, well, you need their IP address, right? Yeah. So we assume there's a network in place. You need their IP address. So in other words, this sensor will need to know what's the IP address of the laptop to send a message on the socket router to a port on that laptop, and would also need to know what the missus's one was, right? But imagine there was 1,000 people interested in this temperature sensor. Then the temperature sensor would have to know the IP address of the 1,000 computers or devices, okay? So what a publisher or subscriber protocol does is it avoids all that, right? And the only IP address you need to know in a publisher subscriber network is the IP address of what's called the broker, right? And the broker is like the man in the middle. So let's see how it works for a minute. So the green is the first step and the red is the second step. So imagine we've just powered it up. On my laptop, I send a message, an MQTT message to the broker, and I say, I am subscribing to the temperature sensor in that air code, that room in that air code, right? We'll say it's the kitchen, yeah, in that air code of a house. I'm going to subscribe to that. So I send a message just to the broker. So all I needed to know in order to do this was the IP address of the broker. I did not need to know the IP address of the house, just the broker. Meanwhile, the missus on her phone, she does the exact same thing. She's also interested. So she subscribes to that air code, the kitchen, the temperature sensor in that kitchen. And all she needs to know is the IP address of the broker. And then we both sit there. Because what happens then is over here with the sensor, the temperature was, say, 20 degrees. It was fine. Now it has become 21 degrees. And so the sensor goes, this has changed by more than, say, a degree. I'm going to let people know. So what it does is it publishes the temperature to, it doesn't publish it to the laptop and the mobile device. It just sends it to the broker. So in other words, the sensor also only needed to know the IP address of the broker. So he publishes an MQTT message, and we'll see them in a few minutes, to the broker. So how does the message finally get to the laptop and the mobile? Well, the broker, when we subscribed, the broker was able to keep track of, well, that's the IP address of that laptop that sent me that subscribe. That's the IP address of that mobile device that subscribed. Now I know where to send it, right? So it publishes a message to the laptop and it publishes a message to the mobile device. So the only person who has to worry about IP addresses is this fella, okay? The broker. So the broker is powerful, but these only ever need to know the IP address of the broker. So this is a very simple example. Another interesting way of describing it is, a lot of you probably, some of you anyway, probably follow football, and some of you probably use the Live Score application. It's a very popular application on a phone for tracking, you know, scores on a Saturday or Sunday or this evening, right? If who's playing this evening? Arsenal. Arsenal again. Don't be looking at it in the corner now. You have to listen to me. Just as well it's not tomorrow, guys, because I'm a Liverpool supporter and I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be watching the match. But anyway, say you implemented Live Score using this, right? You have, say, millions of people who are interested in that Arsenal-Newcastle match. All they do is they subscribe to the Live Score MQTT broker. There's somebody at the match punching in, there's a goal, there's an attack, there's this, there's that. And every time they do it, all those messages are sent out to the hundreds of thousands of people to subscribe for that match. And the person at the match did not need to know any of these IP addresses. All right. Now, don't get me wrong, the broker is a complicated piece of kit. But all of these and the client, what's called the client end, are very, very lightweight, right? And they're very cheap to implement. They don't use a lot of data. So that means they're cheap. They don't use a lot of memory. So they're perfect for what we want, which is IoT land, right? IoT sensors, because cheap and lightweight, not using a lot of memory, not expensive. That's what you want in IoT, because IoT is all about connected, low cost stuff. Okay, so that's MQTT, how it actually works, right? So as I say, you can read this waffle if you want, right? You can read all this waffle, but I think I've just explained it reasonably well. And if you don't understand it, go look it up, right? But that's basically what we're talking about. So let's go and get it to work on our very, very simple setup, right? So what you need to do is open up your console tab, which is one of these. Now, for some reason, which I have never, ever solved, right? If you're like me and you use a Mac and you run Google Console on the Mac, the feckin' thing times out every few minutes, right? Doesn't happen on Windows, doesn't happen on Linux, but it happens on a Mac, right? So I end up having to reconnect, which is a real pain. And a lot of times when I do it, it messes up the what you call it, the actual look and feel. So anyway, you'll see me reset my session quite a bit. You shouldn't have to do it, right? So let's go in, let's try the instructions, right? And let's get everybody to install this. So we're going to install a broker and we're going to install clients onto our environment, right? So how do we install? Well, first we type sudo apt update, right? And I'll explain what that is now in 1 second. So apt update is the command on Ubuntu Linux to update the database or the file on our system to see which versions we have, because we're now going to try and install new software, and we need to be able to, APT, the piece of software that does this, needs to be able to compare what I have on my environment versus what's on the server, the installation servers, to decide what packages to bring down, okay? So all you do is you go sudo apt update, and it'll do this waffle, and then it'll be done, right? Here's a question for you. Why did I have to type sudo? Why, if I just do apt update, would it fail? For instance, if I typed apt update,
You get admin privileges.
it fails. You get this, right? The reason why I have to, as wherever that was said, you have to have root permissions or admin permissions to be able to install software. So you have to put sudo, which temporarily raises the permissions of this command to be root to do this, okay? So has anybody done containers with you? Have you done any containers work at all?
Just in
tiny bit.
theory.
Yeah.
Sorry? Yeah, you've done a little bit. So you've probably noticed that if you do this in a container, you don't need to type sudo. Why is that? Did you ever wonder, ask that question?
Because you're
Because
already in a
you-
box, I guess, so it's safe.
Well, let's, for the crack. That's me running. I'm going to use Docker to run a Ubuntu container, right? I just jumped into a container there. You'll see the prompt has changed, right? So there's my prompt. It was my Cloud Shell prompt, and now it's inside the container. And you see who the user is? The default root user when you jump into a container is root. So I can type apt update because I am root. Actually, what will happen if I type sudo apt update in a container like this? This is a very basic Ubuntu container. What will happen?
You fail.
It'll puke because sudo isn't installed. All right. Okay. So anyway, that's just a little digression about a container, right? Don't worry about it. So let's go back to this. And we've done the update. So now we go apt install Mosquito. That's the broker, right? The broker is called Mosquito. And Mosquito clients is going to be the software that allows us to publish and subscribe, right? They're the client software. So remember the little diagram? So we have client, 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 broker, right? This is the brainy one. These will be very lightweight, the client stuff, right? So they're stored in different packages in Ubuntu. So I'm going to install both these packages. Well, when I remember to type sudo, I'm going to do it, all right? And it's going to say, you're about to install 2 mega software. Do you want to do this? Yes. Okay. Now, it's done. Mosquito and Mosquito clients have been installed. Is the broker running? Do you reckon the broker's running? Any ideas? Any suggestions? The answer is no. We just installed the package. We haven't run it yet, okay? So how do we run it? Well, let's go back to our instructions. Okay. It says run the broker. So you've got to type sudo service mosquito the broker and start. So let's try that. Sudo. So this is just how you would start a background daemon, okay? What's a background daemon? It's a piece of software that runs in the background, right? So there's loads of ways of starting Mosquito. This is the easiest way to start it. When I hit return, it's going to run the Mosquito software in the background. What do I mean by in the background? I mean, I still have my command line, okay? It's come back to me, see it? And I'm still wherever I was, yeah? Okay, so the important point is I'm running the broker, yeah? I can stop it if I want. Stop. I can start it. Again, I think I can restart it. Okay, I can do all that. Now, if you're unsure whether it's running or not, does anybody know how we check Mosquito's running?
Status instead of
RC status.
Say it again.
RC dash status.
RC. I don't know that.
Dash status.
You could just do PS.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. PS,
okay.
But okay, I'm sure there's loads
we
of.
use something at ours, and it shows all of your services that are running.
All right, yeah. I'm sure there's a command for doing that as well. I usually just rely on the process one, right? So if you type PS -EF, you get all the processes are running. Now, obviously, if it was a big server, to be loads of stuff would go off, right? So if you want, you can just do this and grep, pipe it through grep Moz, and it'll tell you the few that are got the word Moz in it, right? So you could actually do Mosquito if you really wanted to. And it'll basically say, yes, that's running, right? So there's my broker and it's running, okay? That's the way I do it. I'm sure
can we don't do it well, like a sudo service mosquito status, and then it would show like full blown.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will, yeah. But I'm just saying in general, how do you in general, if you, maybe this might do it as well. Recognize it. So Mosquito, yeah. In general, just how do you tell? I'm just reminding people, how do you tell a process is running? So it says it's not running there. I thought I started it. Interesting. It is running, so I don't trust that. Right.
And how about a sudo system control?
Yeah, it might be that. Anyway, I'm not getting into admin stuff, right? It serves me right for starting it. Okay, so anyway, it's running, okay? So let's go back to our instructions. So we now have a broker, right? So we now have this running here, okay? So let's go, and what else am I asking you? We're just going to do a very, very simple subscribe here, right? So open up another console tab. So we go here. Clear the screen, right? And it says Mosquito _sub for subscribe, right? -H localhost. We'll talk about that in a second. -T, and what did I suggest? You can put anything you want, right? It doesn't matter, right? So we'll call it my project, or you know what? We'll call it MQT test right? We'll put a dash in to make it nice. And we'll go messages, right? We'll subscribe. It can be anything. You could put in Pearse, you could put in I hate Pearse, you could put in I hate this module, anything. You can put any words you want in there. And why did I put in -H localhost? What do you reckon that is?
Is that very same machine?
Yeah, but why did I have to put it in? What's that referring to? Localhost is obviously the same machine. I could put in 127.0.0.1 if I wanted, but why? What do you think that's referring to? The location of what?
Of the client?
No, we're the client. Mosquito Sub is the client. So
Okay, then it's subscriber then.
No, we're the subscriber. It's the broker. Okay. So you have to tell it where the broker is. Yeah, that's right, Robert. Yeah. So you need to tell it where the broker is. So obviously, if the broker was in a remote location, like some other IP address on the cloud, and we'll do that later when we use a public broker, you'd put in the address of that. But we know that the broker is on this same machine, right? It's running over here, right? This tab is the same machine as here. So we're going to do that. So we're going to subscribe. No errors means it worked, right? And I'm going to change it to be one more thing. Sorry, I'll just hit Control-C to kill it there. I'm going to put a -V in, because if you don't put the -V in, you just get the message to publish. If you put the -V in, you get the topic as well as the message, right? What's the service won't start on my console, Robert? Why wouldn't it? Are you doing sudo?
Yeah, I'm doing sudo. I'm just going to try on my on a VM and then I'll see if I'm still getting issues. Sorry, you go carry on. Sorry.
It should. Are you on Google Cloud? Are you?
Yeah. It starts. It says starting service or whatever, and then it doesn't say done, and it's not showing in my PS stuff. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe the install didn't go fully.
Maybe the install didn't go. You sure you installed? Did you spell it right when you did the apt install? Maybe
That's what I'm going to double check now.
Maybe you just got the client packages. Maybe you didn't get the Mosquito.
Yeah. Here, one moment. Anyway, I'll look into it. Don't worry.
I'll say that's what it is, because it should work. Right. So there's the subscribe. Now, so now we'll open up another one, and it says publish, right? So let's try publish a message. So Mosquito pub -H localhost again, -T. We'll talk about those in a minute. Topic, right? And what was the topic we said? MQTT test. Okay. And then finally, we have to put a message in. So put the message in inverted commas. This is my first message. All right. And hit return. And if you do it right, you shouldn't get any errors. Okay. So that looks like it contacted a broker. And if we go back over to the subscriber tab, you will see it came in, right? Does everybody see that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just give everybody a couple of minutes to try and make sure that to get close to that or whatever, right? So I'll give you a couple of minutes just to try that.
Just follow the commands on the slides, yeah.
Literally just follow those commands. You should be fine, right? And that's the first part of it done. So while you're starting to do that, I'll just talk for a minute, right, about what are these topics, yeah? So the topic is basically how you decide who you want to send messages. So like, for instance, the example, I'll show you, watch what happens if we do this, right? So we said in the temperature sensor example, right? I said maybe we'll call it we had an air code, right? So we just go, say that was an air code, and we had kitchen, and we had temp, right? So a temperature sensor, yeah? And I subscribe to that. Watch what happens, yeah? So then let's pretend that's, well, actually, let's pretend it's me and the missus. How about that, right? So there's me, and say, that's my laptop and I've subscribed to that. And I'll open up. So here's the missus, and she's also. So we're both subscribed, right? And then what we'll do is the sensor will go over here. So this is the sensor. Okay. We'll say it's 20 degrees, right? And it was agreed. So that's basically saying publish to that air code, that room, that temperature, and it's 20 degrees. Now, I'll go look at me. I got it. And the missus got it. Okay? So let's try this. I'm going to take all that. I'm just going to do a tiny little script, right? Just bear with me for 1 minute. Right? Just bear with me. Right. So what I'm going to do is watch. Pretend it was the sensor, right? And it went up to 22 degrees. And then it dropped down to 19. And then it went very cold. And it went to 15, right? So this is the sensor. And this is me. This is the missus, right? And I'm going to run that as if this is me, like pretending to be the sensor. And 3 seconds later, they're all coming in. 22, and the missus is saying the exact same thing. So, as I said, if you extrapolate this, yeah, to the live score example, you can see how easy it could be to build a really, really powerful system here that moves messages around the place. Okay? Does everybody reasonably understand that? Hopefully you did. So that's how easy it is to do it. And I'd say, don't worry if you didn't get all that. The video's there and you can play with it, right? And all I did was I created a file with Vi editor that literally was a stupid thing that did 5 publishes with sleeps apart. Okay, so that's how simple it is to do this. Now, has anybody here? We're going to play. I'm going to show you something. Has anybody got it working exactly right?
Almost. Yeah, I do.
Right. So who said yes?
Aaron.
Aaron, right.
Be your first guinea pig.
Aaron, you're the victim, right? So, right, Aaron, what I want you to do is, okay, you'll enjoy this. So, Aaron, what I want you to do is, I'm going to, let's keep it nice and simple, right? We're going to change the topic to be Aaron test, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to change this to be broker.hivemq.com, right? I'm going to subscribe. That's a public cloud broker. I'm going to subscribe to Aaron Test, yeah, at that. And what I want you to do is type this. I want you to type, I don't want you to subscribe to anything, Aaron. I want you to type this. I want you to change it to be mosquito. Go to your publish, change your -h to be localhost to be broker.hivemq.com -t/Aaron test -m boop. Right? That's what I want you to do. You tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, just bear with me a sec. I just need to carefully type that out. I'm going to be the pub, yeah, not the sub.
You're the victim. You're publishing, yeah?
Yeah, pub.
So
Okay.
there it is there, right? I want you to type exactly that.
Okay, could you just leave that there for a sec?
Yeah?
Thank you.
Actually, I want you inverted commas to go boo from Aaron.
Yeah,
Right.
no worries.
Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, 1 sec.
Who did that? Aaron, you just got beaten to it, right?
Yeah, no, that's not me. That's not me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? So here's the point, yeah? Okay, I'm going to do that one. Sometimes this public broker, goes missing every now and then. There's my one. Is that you, Aaron?
No, that was me.
Yeah,
No.
so we okay, you have, Jesus, Aaron, as a victim, you're becoming very slow. But anyway, you get the point, right? Look how powerful this is. Yeah, we have set up the simplest system on Google Cloud, right? I'm running the broker. I'm running the subscriber here. You've all just published using a public broker to me, right? My machine. It's crazy simple and it's crazy powerful, right? And these clients are really, really simple pieces of software. The actual broker is a pretty complicated piece of kit, but the subscribers and the publishers are very straightforward, okay? And that's it. So hopefully you got the idea, right? So what time is it? And we got the idea at exactly 10 to 8. So let's go back and just check. So that was it, right? You just did your first MQTT message, right? It's that simple. Okay, and we've done it in a very, very simple fashion using Google Cloud, right? When I give you the CA, I will allow you to do it on Google Cloud, right? But what I will also show you in 2 weeks' time is how to do it with containers as well. And with maybe for more marks in the CA, you can try your hand to containers. We'll see, all right? But I will accept it done on Google Cloud or just straightforward Linux, right? With a broker running on a local host. Okay, any questions on that before we take our little 10-15 minute break for a cup of tea? But hopefully you've seen how powerful it is and how easy it is to use, okay? All right, any questions? Sorry, did you get Robert, did you get it working?
Oh yeah, I did in the end. Yeah. I was the second boo.
Oh, so what I mean is you managed to, did you get your broker working? Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't do it on Google Cloud, but I have my Linux
Okay, that's
VM
fine.
working.
I'd say you just didn't install, I'll be honest with you, I'd say you didn't install Mosquito, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so right, no questions. Okay, so let's take a little break, have a cup of tea, and we'll come back at say 8:05, right? And we'll keep going. Is that okay with everybody? Right, so I'll leave the video run. I'm just going to kill my mic and stop sharing, and then we'll just come back to it. So it'll all just be one video, okay? Right, so we'll see you at 8:05.
Can see you in a bit.
Sounds good.
Right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I
For a
can hear
minute,
you.
yep.
Grand. Okay. So let's go back and have a peep at where we are. Right. So we've done the basics. Yeah. We've had a little play with the cloud broker, which is good. So really what I want to concentrate for the remainder of our time tonight is just making sure everybody's got a skeleton of how to get MQTT working, right? Because what I might do is between now and 2 weeks time, I might release out the CA a little bit earlier than in 2 weeks time, so you get a little bit of time to look at it and have a think about it, all right? And so I want to give you the basics of what you're going to need, and then you obviously can build on that. But so what did I do while you guys were off having tea? I brought over this one here. I'm not actually going to go through this tonight, but if you have a quick look at it, you'll see you can do a lot more with the topics, right? And you can have a peep at this yourself and work through it, and I'll go through it. I'm going to go through one of them later on in a few minutes, but you can do a lot of snazzy stuff with topics. You can do wildcards, right? So for instance, say let's take the example, right, where we were doing the home and the ground floor and there's rooms and there's temperatures. Yeah, if you take this wildcard, if you go my home ground floor and you put in the hash symbol there as a wildcard, you can publish to any room, the kitchen, the study, whatever, and the subscribe. If you subscribe using this wildcard, you'll get all the messages. If you just subscribe to my home ground floor / kitchen, you'll only get the published messages that are sent explicitly to blah blah / kitchen. If someone published to blah 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 / study, you wouldn't get the message, right? So the wildcard is like, give me everything under this level. Similarly, if you went my home / hash without the ground floor, you would get everything published to ground floor, first floor, second floor, every single room. So obviously you get the idea. This one is more interesting. Well, it's not more interesting, it's more powerful nearly. You can put a plus in, right? So in this case, it would say subscribe to the temperature sensor on every room on the ground floor. So for instance, say you had a humidity sensor. If you subscribed to that, you wouldn't get the humidity readings. You'd only get the temperature readings, but you get them for the ground floor, the first floor. Sorry, you get them, sorry, your room. So this is a room, ground floor. Any room on the ground floor, you would get the temperature. So you wouldn't get anything on the first floor, and you wouldn't get the humidity ones anywhere. So again, you should have a little experiment. We're going to use this one this evening, but you should have a little play. I've given you a couple of exercises to try there, and if you want, I'll go through the solutions to those. Remind me actually, and I'll go through the solutions to those next week, in 2 weeks' time, right? But they're very straightforward. It's really just to teach you how to use wildcards, that's all. Okay, so what I'm more interested in is these two, okay? So let's go have a look at the first one, which is this one here, all right? And again, this is literally, what we're going to do here is same idea. So you should already have your broker up and running, okay? And what we're going to do is I want you just to subscribe to that, and I want you to publish 2 messages, one after the other, to message P1. I want you to send that as a message, then I want you to publish that as a message, right? And you should see, if you do it right, when you subscribe, you'll see this, right? Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to put that in a script so that it permanently runs, subscribes to your messages, and most importantly, can rip out these fields that are in between the commas, right? Because you're going to need that for your little CA, right? To be able to do certain things. So what I want you to do, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to get this first part done, which is make sure you have your broker running. Do you subscribe to that topic, right? So we've changed the topic to that topic, and I want you to publish 2 messages. First message is that. The second message is that. and I want you to make sure that you see them, okay? Should be very straightforward, should only take a few minutes, and then we'll move on to the more interesting bits. So I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. So 2015, okay? So off you go. And then I'll do it. Go for it. Make sure you go back to your local broker and you're not sending messages to the Hive broker, okay? Because it'll just slow it down. Okay, let's get it working. So what did I say? Subscribe to my Proj events, right? So I'll copy that I'll go over here. And there to our reconnect Pearse. Okay. All right. So where am I? Let's go and find. What did we say? Mosquito sub minus v minus h localhost. Now here's my wonderful. Well, let me get rid of this. This is fucking driving mad. So excuse my French. Say it wraps, right? So mosquito sub minus v minus h localhost minus t. Okay, that's subscribe working. The broker's still running. A mosquito hub minus h localhost minus t dot minus. We'll try that a b b b c c c, right? And let's see if we got it. We did. What was the other one I said? This. Let's grab that. And we come. Well, sorry. Bear with me for a minute. Go back to here. This. And we'll put in this. And we'll have a look. And it works. Okay, so we have that. That was very straightforward. I expect everybody to sort that out, right? So we're working grand. So, but that's not really much use, is it? Because all we're doing is we're putting it, you know, on the command line. If we want to build a system, which I'll ask you to do for your CA, we need to be able to put these in scripts, right? Now, you know, another word for a script is just a load of command lines put together, right? So you can test anything on the command line, but when you want to build out a program, you need to put it in a script, right? So let's go and let's have a peep at that, right? So if we go to part 2, so in other words, you go here and you go to part 2, it follows up from it, right? So we did this script, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to put that code in a script, and I'll let you do it in a few minutes, right? I have it already, but I'll just explain what it does, right? And so let's go back here. And what have I got? Sorry, bear with me. IoT 25 PT. Here's what I made earlier, as they say. Boom, boom, boom. P1, P2, P1. Right. So here is the actual script. You're gonna. I by the way, I deliberately give you a picture of it rather than the text because I want you to type it in. I want you to use an editor. I want to make sure you understand the importance of spacing and all that sort of jazz, right? So, but let's have a little look and see what this does, right? So what have I done here? There's a couple of things going on here. This is a very little script that I'm going to run in a few minutes. So the very first thing I do is rather than explicitly type in localhost here, I put localhost in a variable called BRK for broker. That's so that if I want to change this program, and I might have multiple publishers and all sorts of stuff in here, if I want to suddenly use a broker that's on a different machine, could be an IP address, it could be the Hive one, all I do is I replace it there, and this command will pick it up from that variable, okay? That's just how scripts work. Similarly, I've said put the topic as being that, so I can change that topic without having to change all the explicit. It's just standard programming practice, right? The next thing you're going to see is, do you see what I've done here? I've done a subscribe. Don't worry about the while for a minute. We'll have a look at that in a second. But I've added that wildcard. Remember the wildcards that we talked about? Which was this one, okay? So I'm using this wildcard here. And what that means is grab anything under that topic. So in other words, / my project, / events, / anything. If you publish to anything, this will pick it up, right? So it's subscribe for everything. And then what you do is you pipe the result of that into a while loop. Okay? And all that happens is you can either understand it or you can take it for granted. I don't mind which you do. The result of this subscribe is a line, agreed? A line with the topic that we saw a second ago when we did it. It was basically a line that had that after that, remember? Anyway, you'll see them again in a second if you can't remember. And what it does is it reads it into a variable called line. That's all it does. So instead of me just chucking it out to the screen, it puts it into a variable called line, which means I could do anything with that variable in the script. It's a while loop, so it's going to stay in this loop forever. And all it does is it echoes the line, right? So when I run this, I should get the exact same effect as I saw when I just did the subscribe. But there's a very important difference. It means I can process it, right, in my script. So I'm going to run it. So that would be bash, I called it p1.sh or something, I think. All right, it's running. Now I'm going to do my publish again. The two of them. So that one followed by that one. And if we've done it right, we get the same thing, same idea, right? But the important point is I now, which we will do in a few minutes, have the ability, to process it. Okay, because in here I'm going to add processing to grab out the variables, right? Which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So what I want you to do is I'm going to give you another 5 minutes to code that and get it to run. Is that okay? Is 5 minutes enough for you to do that? Or do you want 8 minutes?
5 should be okay.
All right, I'll give you 5. And it's just really, don't worry if you don't get upset if you can't keep up. You'll have the video, you can go back and practice. We have to do it at a certain rate, right? So have a go and I'll give you 5 minutes, right? So what I'm asking you to do is to take that code and say it's a picture. I'm making you type it, put it into, use an editor, put it in, run it, and just to make sure everybody's clear on how you run a script, right? There's 2 ways to run a script. You can type bash and the name of the script and it'll run. If you try and run the script without typing bash, it'll do this, say command not found, because on Linux, the default path is not to include the current directory. So you'd have to explicitly tell it it's in the current directory and then it'll puke because of permissions and you would have to use chmod, right? User plus execute permissions to get it the right permissions, and then you would be able to run it. Okay, believe me, I know how to do that. Lots of people know how to do that, but it's a lot easier just to type bash that. Okay, because it inherits the permissions from bash when you do that. So that's basically what I'm saying. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes, give it a go. So I'll give you 7 minutes, right? So 8:30. We'll come back and we'll make sure everybody can do that. And if you get it done easy, right, which some of you will, or maybe already done, go on and see can you do the next part, right, which is I want you to parse out this so that we get the contents of the message into 3 variables, right? So in other words, if you did it, it would look like that. Okay, if you get it, the first part done, go on to the second because we're going to do that next. Okay, so I'll give you 6 minutes now. Okay, let's have a peep. Did you just get it working?
I think so.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. As I say, they're just building blocks, right? So don't panic if they don't quite work out tonight, but make sure you get them sorted in the next day or so. All right. So let's go and have a peep now. So what I'm trying to get you to do now is I want you to let's go have a look at the little script, right? So I still got mine. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Okay. Right. So what we had was this. So basically what has happened is we did the publish and just run it again. I'll just make sure everybody's understanding. So we just do that one. Okay, so that, all that, right, when you run it, has gone into that variable, right? And until you do another subscribe, until another message comes in, that variable is going to contain that line. So at the moment we just echoed it out. But really what you need is to be able to say, if in your system you're passing the information in the message. Now you could also pass the information in the topics. That's another thing you can strip out. But for the moment, let's just concentrate on how do we strip out that information there and put AAA in one variable, BBB in another variable, and CCC in another variable. In other words, if we ran it, we would get these three lines would be printed out in our script, right? So we're looking for that, and that, okay? Now, I don't know if any of you have done this before, or have any of you used any commands you think might come in useful to be able to do this on command line?
I had to look it up, but would awk be the one that you'd use?
You could do it with awk, right? Awk is probably the easiest one to do it. The only problem with awk is essentially quite a very powerful programming language, right? So definitely you could do it with awk. There's probably an easier one, command line one, that you can use without having to learn awk, because as I say, if you're not sure a way around the command line, awk can be a bridge too far because it uses a lot of what's called regular terminology. But you could do it with a really straightforward command line command. Does anybody got any other suggestions other than awk? Awk will definitely do it.
Just read it into an array.
Is that one cut from the script?
Yeah, so you can probably read it into an array. Again, arrays are another way you can do it, but there's probably an even easier way that which I'll show you, which I actually give to you, is using cut, right? So let's just have a quick peep to make sure everybody understands how to use cut, right? So let's kill this one, and let's just have a think about it for a minute, right? So say I'm just going to make a little file, right, called or, right? And I'm going to put my AAA, comma, BBB, and CCC, yeah, into it. So now I have a file and it contains that, right? And what you can do is you can use a command called cut. Just let me hide this, sorry. And we know, let's just clear the screen. So let's cat the file, right? So that's our contents of the file. We can use cut. And the way cut works is you can use it like, and it's really like comma separated files because it likes delimiters, right? So what's the delimiter character in that file? What are the fields separated by?
Commas.
Right, so we can go -d, comma, right, delimiter. And then what cut allows you to do is just rip out whatever field you want. So -F1 should get me the AAA, right? There's the AAA. If I want field 2, I get the BB. So you get the idea, right? Now, there's only one slight problem. That's not our line. Our line was Or was it again? Let's just run it again so we have it. Let's just run it. Okay, so our line actually was this. So let's go back into or for a minute, and I'm just using void here, by the way. Right, so now I have a file that contains the line, yeah? Okay, so now we have a mixture of stuff, haven't we? We have a mixture of delimiter stuff here. So how would we say we wanted to just rip out that part as distinct from that part? What's the delimiter character there between that and that? What's the delimiter character?
Space.
Space, okay? Right, let's try this. What would happen if we did minus the space? Will that work? Do you reckon that would work? I reckon it won't work because space is how a command line delimits all its stuff. So you just need to put the space explicitly in, right? With a quote or a double quote or a single quote. And now if we do it, we got the AAA, right? Now it's getting interesting, yeah? Now just one thing to watch out for. Say and it's up to you how you move messages on your MQT system, but say I had something like this. Right? That was my message. It was AAA, BBB, space BBB, comma. So there was 3 parts, and I wanted still to be able to do it, right? How would I make sure, using cut, that I got all of that? How would I do that? Because it wouldn't just be field 2, would it? Because I'd only get that. So how do I get the rest?
Like star or full stop or?
No, that won't work. So there's 2 ways you could do it, right? You could go, well, field 2 to 10, knowing that there isn't even 10. That'll work because it'll just grab everything, right? Or it's actually, the way cut works, if you go field 2 and then put a dash sort of implying onwards from field 2, that'll do it, okay? So that gets us the bit we want, and then we just need to cut that again, don't we? To get the individual ones. So really, we could do something like this. Then we could go back to the first thing we did, was the comma, right? Remember that? And if we did or, sorry, bear with me, that would get me field 1, that would get me field 2, get me field 3, right? So I could put all that shit in my script and I could get the variables out. But there's an easier way of doing it without using files. Does anybody know how to do the 2 cuts one after the other without using files? Anybody know how to do it? Sort of command line stuff. You could do it with files. It just looks a bit messy. It works, but there's a really nice way of doing it. Anybody know how to do it?
No, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Scripting.
No, that's okay. I say this is really basic stuff, and when you go look back at the video, you'll pick it up, right? Let's do it as if it was just command line stuff. So let's do the commands that we're going to put in our script, right? So what did we have? We had line equals all this crap, right? So let's remember, a script is just a load of command lines. That's what it was, wasn't it? Yeah? Command not fine. So sorry, line equals. So I need to put, apologies, I need to put it in inverted commas. Otherwise it doesn't like it. It thinks the AAA is a separate command, right? Now, that's the exact same as in my script. Line now contains that. If I go echo $line, I get that, right? Now watch what happens. If I go echo line and I do grab that and I do grab that, right? In other words, I put all the things on the one line. What symbol do I need to put between these? In other words, what symbol do I need to put there and there so that, yeah, so that the
Pipe.
output, yeah, exactly, it's pipe, right? So what a pipe does is it takes the output of one process and it puts it into the input of another. If you're ever trying to figure out when to use an arrow, right, this arrow here versus a pipe, an arrow takes the output of a process and it puts it into a file, okay? A pipe takes the output of a process and it puts it, so there's that process, which would normally echo line to the screen. But instead, I take the output of that and I pipe it into the input of this process. Then I take the output of that and I put it into the input of this. So if I run this, what's the answer going to be?
Hey.
Yeah. And if I do this, I get BBB. And if I do this, okay. Now, when we started off, that looked a bit complicated, but hopefully it ain't that bad if you take it one step at a time, right? So let's go and look at what I asked you to do. I said, can you change it so that you get that output, right? So do you want to have a go?
No.
I'm trying it now, but we'll see.
Okay. But the reason
Yeah,
why
we'll
I want
give
you
it
to
a
have
crack.
the reason why I want you to have a go, right, is very simple. Don't be afraid to get it wrong, because if you just sit here and watch me do it, right, you won't actually figure out, oh, if you do that, it doesn't work. If you do this, it works. So don't ever be afraid to try it, get it wrong. The main point is you then learn from what you did wrong, and then you'll do it right the next time, right? So I want you to give it a go, yeah, and I'll leave that open on the screen for you, right? And it is as simple as literally try figure out how to get that stuff. When you do that, yeah, that's going to come out on the screen. So worst case, you should be able to get the stuff put out onto the screen. I've asked you to figure out how to do it and put it into a variable that you would then echo out onto the screen. But we'll take it one step at a time, right? So I'll leave that on the screen for you. Give it a go, and we'll come back. I'll give you 8 minutes, right? I'll come back at 10 to it, and we'll finish it off, and I'll show it to you, and I'll give it to you so you can play with it between now and the next day, okay? So I'll give you 8 minutes. See, can you figure it out? See, can you get it to work? So remember what I'm asking you, right? I'm asking you, blah, blah, echo. So put the AAA. So M1, the variable, should end up containing AAA. M2, the variable, should end up with BBB. M3 should end up with CCC. And then you should be able to echo them out, right? Try it. Okay, I'll leave this open for you. So you've now got probably 7 minutes, okay?
Sorry, Pearse, would you be able to like continue? So, what I was thinking of doing is the command would be echo message, pipe cut, basically the first field, and then again pipe echo message cut, and then the second field. Does that work to not have to save it to a variable, or am I going?
No, if you echo, by default, an echo will go out to the screen, right? I haven't shown you how to put it into a variable. I'm wondering, do you know how to do it? Don't lose any sleep. If you haven't got time probably to look it up, figure it out, I'll give it to you, right, on how to do it. I'll give you 2 ways for how to do it in a few minutes, okay? But if you can at least even echo them out onto the screen by ripping out the fields, then I'll be happy, okay?
Yeah, good.
Okay, give it a go. You've 7 minutes.
Pearse.
Yeah.
I was just hoping I have here like how it works fine, but I was wondering, I'm sending an image into the chat. Oh, it's gone tiny. If you click onto it, is there a way to like put this all as one continuous line, or I mean, should I even bother? I mean, I was just wondering because a lot of times I've seen people just have one huge long line. So that works to print them out, but yeah.
Yeah, so you obviously on your subscribe haven't got a -v then because you didn't cut out the first part first. When you're subscribed, you're not getting the if that's working for you, then you're not let me see, I'll just show you.
I know I've already cut out the I've cut using the white space. I just didn't screenshot that part. I have the message, save, echo, line.
How did you get message content? How did you get message to cut out the first part?
I'll show you this now.
Yeah, show me the rest of it.
But once again, didn't screenshot the whole thing, but this shows you enough. Ignore the bad spelling.
Okay, so blah blah blah. Yeah, that's it, right? So you've basically done message equal. Yeah, that's exactly how you do it on command. So basically, that's it. M1 equals blah blah blah. That's perfect. So then you do M2, then you do M3, and you'll cut out. So you'll do M2 and put F2 in, and do M3 and put in F3. Okay, so it's three lines. That'll do.
And then just echo those. Yeah.
Just echo those. That's perfect. Yeah, very good. Right, we'll shut up now.
Same here.
Okay, let's have a look, right? So for those of you who are awake, if you had page down, I actually gave you the solution in the appendix, okay? So that's actually, sorry about that. So that's actually the solution, all right? So let's just have a quick peep at it. I have it, actually, we'll show it to you over here. Right, so where am I? Oh, I hate this thing. Right. Okay, so that's what we had, yeah. So that's essentially there what I did first on the command line. So the only difference is if you want to run a command and store the result in a variable in bash, right? There's two ways you can do it. You can do it with $ just means the contents or the result of. If you put it in brackets, it runs that as a command. Okay. The other way you can do it, I'll show you. Oh well, we'll run it first and then I'll show you the other way to do it. And then that's the exact same idea, right? So these are the ones, these are essentially what I did on the command line, and now I'll put them into the script, right? Because once I get rid of, I take everything from field 2 onwards, I've got rid of the topic part, and then I can use the comma separator, right, to rip out my M1, M2, M3, and then I just print them out, right? So I'll run this just to show you that it's working. And I've given it to you in the actual. Does anybody know how to, just a little trick to show you, does anybody know how to run previous commands on Bash?
Arrow up.
Ah?
Arrow up.
Arrow up, Anna, that's easy. I'm talking about, say, if you type history, if you type history, right, you get all the previous commands, yeah?
Then it's exclamation mark and whatever number is.
Yeah, very good, right? So say I wanted to run that one again, yeah? I could yank and paste it, or see the number here, 462. If I just go exclamation mark 462, it'll run that command again. And there we have our result, right? So don't worry about that for a second. I'll explain that in 1 second. So we got AAA, BBB, CCC. So we all agree it works okay. I'm going to go back into it. And I'm going to change it to show you the other way you can. So if you put, it's like a back quote, right? It's not a single quote, it's the one that's a back quote. If you put that around it, get rid of your brackets. All right? It does the exact same thing. Message equals, it'll run that command and put the answer equal to message, right? So I'll just comment that line. Okay. And it should still work when I run it again. I'll just put in something different to be fun. Right? And if I run it, you see it works fine. Okay, so there are the two ways you can do it. So the last thing I wanted to show you was I'll go back to the way I had it. Right. So the last thing I wanted to show you was this down here at the bottom, right? So the beauty of the whole thing is once you have them, the result in a variable, right? So imagine what you've done here. You've sent a message, an MQTT message to a remote computer via a broker, and you can put as many pieces of data or information in the topic or the message. We've put it in the message, separated by the comma. You could use any field you want to separate it. I've just made a comma to make it easy to understand. I could have put 20 pieces of information there separated by a comma. And this, if I code it right, will rip all those individual pieces of information, which can have embedded spaces, by the way, into the variables. And then once they're in the variable, I can do things like make a decision. So if, for instance, I've said M1 is boo, I've said take this route, right? And else take the other route, right? So I'll just change that even to take this, we'll call it the boo route. Okay. So that's why at the moment, if I run this, it is taking the other route because I didn't make the first field boo. But watch what happens if I make the first field boo. And now I go back, take the boo route. Okay. So what I've given you is very simple way to take incoming MQTT messages, parse them, and then act, right? So for your CA, you would have to do things like this. But when you're acting on the content, you might be then in turn publishing an MQTT message to someone else who's listening, subscribing somewhere else, right? It will become clear when I reveal what I'm asking you to do, but I'm giving you the building block, quite a substantial building block here on how to do it. And I'll give you another couple of building blocks in 2 weeks' time. And I'll probably either release out the CA before then or worst case that night, okay? I have to just think about one other thing I want to do with it. And you'll be asked to do other bits and bobs. And the CA just isn't a piece of code. It's some documentation that goes with it. And there's a few extra bits in it, all right? But that's essentially, let me see, so I've given you that code, right? Even the boo bit is there, right? So please make sure, and actually I think I said, you can also, if you want, try change it, yeah? I gave you the public broker. It was broker.hive. You can look it up if you want to find it, but there's other ones out there as well, but you can see it in the video. It's broker.hivemq.com. So you could redo this, do it again, and instead of using, just change that up here from localhost to be broker.hivemq.com, and it'll work, but you're using a public broker, all right? Which is nice, and as we demoed earlier, that makes it actually quite powerful as well. So I'm just giving you, hopefully, like most of you can, I think, what is there, 70, isn't it? Yeah. So out of 7, one of you had met MQTT before, which was a miracle. So at least 6 of you have learned something new, hopefully, tonight, and how powerful it can be and how you might use it. And when you do the CA, hopefully you'll understand how even more powerful, and you can build quite a nice little system out of this. So I'm not going to do any more this evening unless someone asks me some questions or something. But as I say, that's essentially what I wanted to get. I believe. Let me just check I didn't leave anything out. So the topics you should play with yourself. We did that. We did that. We did that. And as I say, this stuff, please just do me a favor and look at it and maybe watch the videos. You don't have to read all these in the next 2 weeks. You might find some of them interesting, but before you get to the exam and all that sort of jazz, you definitely need to read them. I would read them as you go along. It'll make a lot more sense, right? Just make sure you look at those before in the next 2 weeks. And if you have any questions about something that you don't understand that I've put in it, then tell me, and I'll go and we'll talk about it for a few minutes, right? We'll go and look at it if there's something you can't understand based on the video or the material, right? But I really don't see the point in spending 2-3 hours just waffling through that crap when you can look at it anyway. So, any questions? So we have 7 of you. So what I'll probably do on the CAs, you won't all get the exact same CA. I'll probably give 3 CAs. You'll have to do roughly the same thing, but it'll be slightly different data flying around the place, okay? But we'll see. I have to decide that. So you're all very quiet. Any questions?
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. So anyway, hopefully you got something out of it. And thanks for turning up. 7 wasn't too bad considering you're telling me there usually isn't that many anyway. So if I don't hear from you between now and then, I will see you again, same URL in 2 weeks' time, 6:30. Okay?
Brilliant. All right.
So do yourself a favor and just practice some stuff and make sure that you can spin it up and get it working really quickly. Okay?
Brilliant.
All right.
Cheers, Pearse. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pearse.
Bye-bye.
Brilliant, Pearse.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry, I'll make the video will appear on your playlist in about an hour. Okay.
Brilliant. All right.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Cheers.
See you now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. Cheers.